Hotep, my loved ones, this is segment 8. As I left off at the end of number 7, I was referring to the word father, and I was going to move into the word mother. However, there are some things that I wish to show you further with dealing with father, especially when we go to the etymology of the word. Old English, feder, from an Indo-European root shared by Latin pater, or really pater, and Greek pater. Now, it's interesting to me that P-A-T-R, when you pronounce it correctly with the vowels, is pater, like Harry Potter. And I'm sure there's a whole video I can do concerning that. Now, when we look up the word pater, pater in anthropology is a person's legal father, often contrasted with genitor. Okay? Legal father. One, like I was saying before, and further elaborating on it this time, our father, from what the references are showing us, is really someone who is supposed to bring forth the aspect in, I guess, the relationship between progeny and one who is progenitor, one who is to aid in the upbringing of the offspring to become masters of themselves. So in actuality, in this sense, a father, once again, is not necessarily masculine, or someone who is coming forth exclusively in a masculine expression. Okay? There are legends that speak about nations of women long time ago who had offspring without so-called male fathers. And they were reproducing and having daughters, which means copy, or copy of the mothers. The daughters, or copies of the mothers, once again, they were having these children by what is known as parthenogenesis, which is a woman being able to bring forth a child without the aid of male sperm. Okay? However, women that they were having relationships, personal relationships, or I guess you could say relationship dealing with bringing forth or bringing up the progeny, as I should say, the progeny and the offspring. These relationships were used to make sure that the offspring would have, I guess you could say, a masculine aspect is in energy, not necessarily male or man, or what we call physical male. However, it was supposed to bring forth the manifestation of balance. Okay? And in other societies too, there were men or brothers who understood their parts as fathers, representing the aspect that deals with direction, specifics, actions that dealt with, in so many words, that of making sure principles, things, or whatever were enforced. So it's not one of those aspects where you got the mother who just brings forth and the father takes over and the mother has no input. In ancient societies, mothers had just as much input as the fathers. And in some societies, in certain aspects of these societies, especially dealing with anything dealing with divination or communicating with the unseen forces of nature, at one point were exclusively left up to mothers or women, because at those times they were the only ones who could access these particular energies. At one point in some of these societies, men or fathers weren't taught to tap into that, because the men were given a specific purpose. Then later on the lines, later down the line of these cycles, men were, depending on which society allowed, and in others, men were taught these ancient sciences to harmonize with those feminine aspects of themselves, to unite an androgyny of oneself with a man. A man unites the androgyny of his feminine self, dealing with his prana body, his energy body, which is magnetic. And other sciences were taught where women having a feminine physical body were to harmonize with the masculine electric body of their prana bodies or energy bodies. So in essence, in a sense, we were to unite to become an androgyny within oneself, and then seek or have a mate to further bring those two androgynies into one. So the divine marriage is actually speaking of the polarities of masculine and feminine energy, or male and female energies coming together as one. And this is why it said in the Bible that you should not be getting married, or there's no marriage. In so many words, I think it's to the degree that there is no marriage without the unification of the masculine and feminine energies. Because what this is teaching is that how can you be in a healthy relationship or be willing to connect with another and you haven't really even connected with yourself first? Let that marinate for a second. Now, I would like at this time to go into mother. Okay? Mother. A woman in relation to a child or children to whom she has given birth. Once again, dealing with progeny or offspring. A person who provides the care and affection normally associated with a female parent. So a mother may not necessarily just be a woman who is giving birth physically. She may be one who has the role of taking care of the offspring. Okay? There's other definitions here. Head of a female religious community, denoting an institutional organization from which more recently founded institutions of the same type derive, like the Mother Church or Catholic. Something that is the origin of or stimulus for something else. Okay? 2. Vulgar slang, short for motherfucker. Okay? Now, when we look at the origin, Old English, Mordor, of Germanic origin related to Dutch moeder and German Mutter, from an Indo-European root shared by Latin mater and the Greek meter. Now, if you will pay attention to those words, mutter, mater, and meter, especially in the Greek, when you research, you will find that the word mother emanated or came from the word mater. What is mater? Matter is the combination of what we call the manifested, or really the unmanifested universe too, because all things emanate from the matter or the mater. This is why in ancient knowledge it was said that the great mother gave birth to all, because we're dealing with the mater, and the mater or the matter would have to be impregnated or stimulated by the father or masculine aspect to bring forth creation. Okay, but remember, I just told you all that father doesn't necessarily denote masculinity excessively. Okay, now when you study the esoteric sciences like I have, okay, you will find that mother and matter are synonymous. It's the same thing in all those different circles. They may say it the same way. It's the same thing. All right. Now I will continue this further in the next segment, which will be part whatever. I forgot. Hotep. Peace.